Okay, I didn't know that. So,
Oh, I guess it's.
So now it's, so now it's,
The police station.
yeah, it
now
used to
it's-
be the
well, it
jail
did.
or
It
something.
was
You
when
could
I
be-
was growing up, that was where.
No,
How did you know that?
time there.
No,
Huh?
I've never spent time there.
I have no doubt of that.
No.
I have no doubt of that.
No, I never spent time there, but that's.
Are you sure it's A? Are you sure it's A night in there?
A9.
A nine.
Yeah, we need part of character. Exactly.
I can't even imagine how it was even
Bucket list.
jealous of in there so small. It was so small.
Well, it's good to be in when you're
Remember they put the
young.
cages on the side of you for a while.
It wasn't intended to be comfortable.
In the
Oh,
cage.
that's wrong.
They kept us in cages.
Oh, no.
It's good to go in when you're young, because then you realize you don't want to do that when you're an adult.
Exactly.
I don't know, this day and time,
I
3 squares and 3 hots and a cot noise, I don't know.
Sunny are right on top here.
And. So you have to
Wasn't in time to put it in the packet, but if you want to do it, Ms. Handout, you're more than welcome.
sleep up this. On my shirt, but it's dang.
They don't have them, so if you want to hand them out whenever you're
Oh, they don't.
talking,
Okay.
they do not have them.
Oh,
Okay,
Are we gonna wait on Mallory?
we're gonna go real slow.
Okay.
And then-
She said she's on 361.
Driving fast.
She's driving.
Like she stole it.
I'm telling you, we're driving fast.
Now, it's been about 10 minutes since I talked to her.
So you need
Right.
four, but.
Me for yes. Yeah.
Alright. Okay. 1:43 PM on August 25th. Bring the Board of Adjustments and Appeals meeting to order. First order of business is a public hearing. Limit the comments to 3 minutes. There'll be no debate or anything, just a brief synopsis of your plan. First item on the public hearing is variance request 22-002175. Applicant requesting to reduce the required street side setback from 10 to 7.
It's
actually 15.
It's actually 15, that's a typo.
Okay, that don't happen.
Hmm?
That don't happen. I haven't ordered them.
I understand.
Yeah.
Okay, the side yard supposed to be 15.
Correct, on the street side, yes, sir. I've been,
All right.
the message that
17.
went out to the property owners surrounding, it was correct on there, so 15.
Okay.
What street side? Oh, street
Request
side?
by Edmund Meyer,
Those are-
property location 101 Beach Street. Anybody like to speak on this item?
I'd like to say, but I don't have anything prepared, but I just, first of all, I want to thank the board for considering this variance. And of course, I was in front of the board a couple of years ago, getting a variance to save a historic structure that was set to be demolished by the Catholic Church. And now I live in that structure. And it wasn't quite the plan originally, but it was worthwhile. That building was built before 1928. And it's a little piece of history that goes all the way back to Harbor Island. And I think it's really important to consider this variance for Edwin, because Shorty's is going to be the only piece of history left from the flats. Except for, the Hunt houses that were made and combined into cottages, like Mackey Ward's house, which a lot of people don't even know that. But it's the only complete structure really that has a really dated history in the flats, because we know that the flats is going to be completely redeveloped into a totally new entity, and it's not going to be the flats anymore. And to save just one piece of it and keep it in Old Town, I think it's a worthwhile cause. So I hope you'll consider the variance just based on that merit alone.
And Cliff, just state your physical address what in the world credentials do you have that,
And last name,
that?
Okay, I'm
Frida.
Cliff Strain. I live at 206B Station Street. And I am the Executive Director of PAFA, Port Aransas Preservation and Historical Association. So I know a little bit about the flats and can give you quite a history on that building. And on a lesser note, one of my first winters here in Port Aransas was always kind of a trick to survive before we had year-round commerce, and one of them was Denim Bar and Shorties. So I think
Were you old enough to do
barely.
that? Barely.
Yep, and I have,
very legal, huh? Yeah.
Attended bar at Shorty's for a while.
let's see. Consider it.
Everybody got-
I think so.
Thank you.
All right, good, thank you. All right. You wanna say anything?
I'll say a little something.
Yeah. This is a public hearing.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chris Jordan. I'm a Port Aransas resident. I live at 318 7th Street. I've been here for 30 years. I'm also Edwin Myers General Contractor, the person that's in charge of moving these three structures to their new location. I would like to concur with everything Cliff said. I think you addressed the historical import of what we're doing very well. Just from a technical standpoint, we're putting all three of those buildings in a row, jammed up as close as we can to one another to make it possible to have those buildings on that lot and have enough parking and access to use those buildings. So I just want you to know we're doing everything in our power to make the setback as compliant as we can, but it's just this much short of making that 15 feet. And that's the basis for the request for the variance, is that, you know, there's no wiggle room. We're literally bolting the buildings to one another with zero space in between to get as close as we can to satisfying the setback. That's all. I'll be here for the rest of the meeting, if there's anything that I can address from the construction side of the issue. Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody else? All right, we'll close the public hearing and open our general meeting. I'd like to change the order up, trying to get Mallory here, hopefully shortly. Or go to item 3.2. Is a discussion take appropriate action on the minutes from July 20th, 2022. Everybody had a chance to review those? Have any additions, corrections? Yes,
I
sir.
move we approve the minutes from that meeting.
You have a motion to approve? Do I have a second? Have a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that didn't take long. All right. Well, let's go ahead and go into the board adjustments.
Since we have a new member, do you want to talk about kind of BOA's role and hardships, and that might kill a little bit more time?
Sure, just, yeah, general,
I could use a refresher too.
yeah. Well, and again, it has changed over the years a little bit. Well, one significant aspect has changed. So Paul, generally variances are given with great discretion. It's, you know, it's the board exists, you know, to hear, you know, to hear an applicant, to hear what the cause is, but again, they should be, you know, it should be used very judiciously. That's just the fact. There was a whole litmus test of things that and we'll get into it. I don't know that it will necessarily impact this particular situation, but for example, in years past, and again, this is a refresher for all of us, because it was a significant component as to the litmus test for a variance, and that was a financial hardship. Financial hardships for the longest time, up until the recent legislature, was absolutely not to be considered. You know, if it was going to cost $2 gazillion more because of
of that hardship, it wasn't a factor. So be it. That was just the reality you had to deal with. This or the last legislation, last legislation session, legislative session, that's a hard phrase, change that. A financial hardship is absolutely now something, they went complete 180, is something that can be considered as part of the test. Self-imposition, you know, are you self-imposing this hardship on yourself? When and if a variance is to be considered, it should be the least amount. If it's a measurement, if it's a volume, if it's a linear measurement, it should be the least that's absolutely needed, you know, for the purpose, you know. So like I said, if you know, if you could get by with a 1 foot request on the setback, you don't ask for 3, you know. So that's one of the other tests. Trying to think what some of the other ones were. Those were the big ones. The Board of Adjustments is a deciding body, unlike planning and zoning, which is a recommending body to the city council. They recommend things. You are the judge, jury, and executioner, if the case may be. So it does require four votes in the affirmative. So for a variance. So if you were somebody were to move to grant the variance, it does take 4 in favor of that. The applicant still does have due process. That should they not agree with the Board of Adjustments decision, they do have their next step is to district court, so they can appeal your decision to the court system, and then once there, then it moves up, you know, the court chain of command, the district court, appeals court, et cetera, Supreme Court, ultimately. Go on and on. Staff will, once everybody's laid out the issues, made their claim, you know, staff will state our position. Normally, you know, either, you know, we'll vigorously oppose something if there's a risk to the public safety, soundness, if there's those issues at stake. You know, we virtually always have to, you know, just basically have to, you know, explain that, you know, that setbacks exist for a reason. There's a valid purpose. So like I said, our staff's level of input, you know, goes from, you know, strong, which we'll voice and explain why, to basically leaving it up to you appointed officials to make that decision when it's, you know, when there's not a great risk to public safety and soundness. And that's really it. I mentioned to you, Paul, but again, just a refresher to all of you, because I know several of you have been on here for a while. There's always a concern as to why I don't get these materials so I can go over them and study them. And again, several years ago, our city attorney at the time, who was well-versed, just explained to us very clearly that it should be something that's seen and laid out kind of like a court case. In other words, it's all laid out so that it's a fresh set of eyes. You haven't gone by or been swayed, you know, by a rigorous inspection of the property and walking it. And, you know, again, they lay out the facts, you know, as they are, and you guys, you know, can do that. Not that there's any legal prohibition against you doing that. It was just Mike's strong encouragement that, you know, you leave it to this meeting and let everybody lay out their case. Ask as many questions as you need to. I guess technically even table it if you didn't want to make a decision, you wouldn't have to proceed. You know, you could table any action until such time as you've gotten more information. It's rare.
Field trip.
Yeah,
All of those things.
it's rare. We haven't had the need for that, but all of those things are, you know, all those tools are available to you. Field trip, as Nicole said, you know, there's been some times where you know, we've adjourned temporarily and gone over and looked at a property. That's certainly certainly your prerogative. You guys pretty much, you know, have carte blanche to you know, whatever you need or you need staff to do, or you want to do once it's been laid out for you is kind of the idea. So with that said, I think that's really about it. Again, it's completely up to the board, four of you to decide, whether whatever is laid out is worthy of that variance. So questions?
Yeah. Of course, I've been a strong opponent of us getting information at the last. You always come up with this court deal. They also, the courts have depositions and they have the whole thing.
But the judge doesn't get that information ahead of time.
No,
The,
not at
like
all.
two competing
Right.
members too.
And will you, please, if there's an updated, you remember we had a bullet point list
Mhm.
of requirements for variance. Sounds like that changed. Will you get us an updated?
Yes, sir.
list of what counts and what counts
Uh,
doesn't count?
And again, that was what I mentioned earlier was at the advice of I'm sorry, city attorney, who's no longer our city attorney. We have a new city attorney, and if you'd like, I'll see if I can engage her. She may have a different take on it, and we probably, it might not be a bad idea to have her come in and do that for us. I'll do I can do that bullet point, but let her weigh in, because again, she's the one that will defend you and
We actually had in-services
Mhm.
once, before, during or before a meeting. Because we were bad.
well, I don't know about that.
I don't know. I like to have more of a roadmap.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I agree completely, and we'll put that together. And what he's talking about is just kind of the bullet point items is really based on legal precedent. These tests have kind of emerged as the bullet points. Like I said, financial hardship I'll pick on because it was always the
Okay, let's get back to the
with
point.
consideration. So
Okay.
I'm stalling.
We're discussing variance request
Oh,
22.002175.
Just in time.
Property location 101
don't
Beach
have-
Street. All right. Rick, will you give us a city synopsis of this?
Yes, sir. It's pretty straightforward. It's a request for a reduction in the variance on the side street side that would normally be 15 feet, a reduction to 7 feet. So, well, you don't have
No doubt.
yeah, would you go point? The reason being is that I'm sure it's laid out in the application, but the applicant is the owner of the Shorty's structure there in the flats, but not the land. And so as owner of the structure, he will be moving it to the site, which we refer to as the former Castaway site. That's what it was for so long. But given the other building that you noticed is already there on site, and another one that will be coming, I don't know, before, I guess after Shorty's, is that correct? The third building, timing wise? There'll be 3 buildings on site. It's probably irrelevant as the timing. The big part is for all of them to fit within the engineering that they've got right now, the way the applicant would prefer that it be. It would require that reduction in that side street setback. And it's an orientation issue that would allow Shorty's, and the applicant can elaborate if I get this wrong. I think I have a basic understanding. The orientation of the building such that it can remain an open air, naturally ventilated building. Rather than, and again, it's to take advantage of the prevailing breezes and keep it that way. So that's the general ask, is just a reduction of that one side setback for the orientation that the applicant feels is best for the project, which will consist of 3 older buildings moved to the site. The city, again, recognizes that it is that it will violate the setbacks. We don't feel strongly, given the positioning of the other structures around there and the impact it has to the very limited neighbors, if you will. It certainly doesn't pose any risk, in our opinion, to life safety any of those other things. So other than just identifying it, it does violate our setbacks. The staff doesn't really feel strongly one way or the other about the variance request in a commercial district like this.
Okay, look, maybe this might be something, Edwin, something for you. Are these buildings gonna be oriented to Church Street as a front street? Front?
They're ultimately gonna face Beach Street.
State, Edwin, if you just state your name and address for the record.
Edwin Myers, 2034 State Highway 361, Port Aransas, Texas.
All right, they're gonna face Beach Street.
So what'll
We have
happen,
a plan?
and I probably should have included this, but but this is how. And those would be all butted up right up next to each other.
All right, where's,
So this is Alistair, this is Church Street, this is Beach Street.
all right. This is Alistair,
Alistair right here.
right here.
Beach Street here, that would be Ward House right there. Shorty's with the right.
And these are facing
Beach Street face this street, this way. Ward House could be running long ways, along with Constant.
So the parking lot will be in front of it.
Correct.
and
Parking lot over here, that.
Yeah,
And we'll,
so it'll be like this be the Ford house, this would be Shorty.
yes, in the house.
We see?
Yes.
All right.
So
I drew it.
you got
Wait, so where's the connoisseur?
right there.
Okay, and then what's his?
That was Shorty's,
Okay,
the courthouse on the backside.
so this street right here is what, Church Street?
There, that's the backside of the lot. Church Street is right over here.
That's right.
And so. So yeah, Church Street right here,
Okay.
Beach Street here,
Mhm.
and Alice Street here.
So what building is it we're talking about the variance for? The last one, not the middle one? We're not talking
Correct,
about.
that one
Short-
right there.
So we're not talking about Shorty
talking
so
about-
far. We're talking about whatever this is, the board house.
Courthouse.
Okay, so my drawing is correct. It's just, this is more of a square with a dog leg. Okay, okay,
Yeah,
got it.
well,
So when we say shorties, we're not talking shorties. We're really talking a structure.
yes,
Going to be a part of Shorty.
Okay, got it.
so and I'll
Okay,
give you this. as well.
I got it now. Did you get it? Okay.
Those are gonna be connected, right, Edwin? What's that gonna be connected? They'll all be wrapped up against each other. There it is. You can get. That is as close as we can. If I can get them closer, I'll do it. And so what basically I wanted to show there is the little marker where the building's gonna be. On the edge of the building. And then on the second page, you can, well, actually, this first page is you can see how far back even with the building where it's at, we're still 16 feet off the road. Which is a considerable amount. And it is curb and gutter there as well. So I don't, that's not gonna change for the foreseeable future. I know there was some lady across the street had mentioned a couple of things. All the times I've been there, I haven't seen anybody there. But that being said, there's certain ways we can make adjustments to accommodate loading and unloading. And I don't even know if that's going to be the area where it's going to be, anything will be loaded in at all. We haven't built decks yet. We haven't built anything like that. So, I've gone over there, I've looked at the neighborhoods. If you look at all the other buildings in that area, we're as far back or further than everything else in that area. There are some stuff that's built zero setback where it's built directly on the property line. And, it's not out of line.
it seems like the letters of opposition were more use than setback. So I don't think you're gonna change the use.
Yeah, it's not going to be a 4-lane street.
Are the other buildings gonna stay board house and?
I haven't decided. I mean, I suddenly got these buildings and now I'm going, okay, well, I'm gonna, I have an opportunity to like save them, so, I'll save them. Ashley Harris had talked to somebody about, Texas Surf Museum was closing down or whatever, and I was thinking, maybe rotate some stuff through there. It might not be its sole use, but, a means to, if you separate that museum up into 3 or 4 different places and then just rotate that every year, everybody gets something new that comes in to see something or whatever. Maybe use it, some of it at Cody's, or try to figure out how we can, build this into something that really supports Shorty's and, maybe addresses, some piece of history in Port Aransas.
I can say from a staff perspective, they'll have to, kind of like what you see going on at Liberty Hall right now. It appears the owners have had a change of plans, but that doesn't mean the building's going to stay in this state of disrepair that it's in now. So we're going to require them to bring it up to code, regardless of whether they keep it, sell it, or whatever. And it'd be the same thing with these buildings. Once they're moved, there'll be the expectation and the demand that they be brought up to code, and we won't dictate the use. I mean, obviously it's a commercial 2 zone. There's a lot of potential uses there, but I just want to make sure you understand he's not going to, since, and nor does he need to articulate what he's going to do with them right now, but they are going to have to be, brought up and made standard to current codes.
Hey, look, that screen you have.
Yeah.
Can you email that to Nicole?
Yeah.
And she might print it
I can put it up on the screen.
and print it too?
Yeah, it'll take a little while.
Or I could put it.
I've got to go to the library because our printer here is not working.
Oh,
I can maybe print
on the
I have a
screen.
question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is that the part of Church Street that is in contemplation to be closed?
No.
Okay, it's a different, okay, just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Actually crossed my mind as, I looked at it and said, well, they all have access, on other streets there. But
But there's some houses that only have street frontage off Church Street, so that would never be an option there. Some of those properties.
on the
only-
further down, yeah.
Oh, no, behind you.
Yeah, there's a house.
Oh,
There's a few properties
Yeah,
there that only
that's-
have access
That's
off
their
Church
only
Street.
access.
Okay, can you, we'll get it up on the screen?
Yeah, as soon as I get it.
It's,
Can I ask a question? While we're waiting. Glenn, you're the chair.
Sure, yeah,
Your hearing's about as good as mine.
yeah.
The issue of loading came up. I don't see a street behind all those buildings. We reload from the back at Salty Dog. I assume all your stuff will reload from the front. Is that correct?
front or side.
Okay.
It just depends
Yeah.
on, I don't.
You
know
got
the
a lot of
logistics
front.
Of it right now. Yeah, we do have a lot.
You got a
front.
lot of front.
Yeah.
I just wanted to point that out about loading. Church Street may not be the area of operations for loading any more than Allister is for us.
Although I believe Church Street was where the Castaways loaded.
Yes,
in the
Castaways, their layout, was their entryway to the kitchen and everything was right there. It's kind of funny. That was the first place I worked when I moved to the island. And they did load in on the backside there. Castaways was considerably closer to the street back then. I mean, literally, I can remember, pulling up on my bicycle and just stepping off the street and leaning my bike up against the, I was kind of surprised. I saw, when I was out there walking around, I was looking at the concrete, and literally the concrete for the building was like this far off the street. So we're back considerably from what.
But you got it up already, Glenn. You may walk over and point out now all of your streets and buildings and features. And point out which one's a connoisseur, which one's sold the Shorty's.
The top one's gonna be connoisseur.
Got it. It's there already.
There already, right? Correct.
It's there already.
It is there already.
Shorty's is to come in next to it. If we had our way, we would move Shorty's first before Board House, but we don't know the timing, their timing exactly yet. The Clarks are.
It'd be easier.
It'd be easier.
It'd be easier.
Yes, that's what we're kind of hoping. And so then we mash that up against connoisseur, and then we come over here and we put this in here. I'd like, in a perfect world, you would you'd cut into the building, but financially, that's not feasible. I don't know if you can make it structurally feasible. You know, people have mentioned, why don't I turn it like this? Well, if I turn it like that, I cut off all the window shorties. And that's not gonna.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that.
I was having a hard time with that. This help.
The other property is
This
the
help.
back of the.
There's the park.
I think there's 10 feet there, if I'm not mistaken,
Well,
something like that. Well,
Right, there's the parking diagram too.
So you can load it from there.
Possibly could
Right.
here, but that's all I heard. A lot of the loading stuff comes in and really,
Yeah,
and a lot of that really depends.
their
on
uses
whether-
are gonna have to conform to parking.
Because they're dependent a lot of times on coming up a ramp. Cody's, I was able to build a little different kind of stair step that was longer that they can pull up, but they back up and they ramp onto that. So it's a matter if you get a loading dock in there, you know.
Orient Church
The other
Street.
thing that I
Where's church?
church is right here. The other thing is the driveway. I don't remember, there was a front, yeah.
We've got aerial views in their packet.
I was looking to see. Cause I took some pictures, I was trying to. I don't know if I took a straight on picture or not. But I was looking at, looking at the driveway, thinking to myself, theoretically, if we did load in over here, the driveway was somewhere over here. And if, the truck was over here, they still could load in and they wouldn't block the driveway. But like I said, every time I was there, and even according to the neighbor, they're not in town. Shorty's is gonna have live music. It would really behoove the neighborhood to have this building here because it's gonna block a lot of the sound from coming back into this neighborhood. I'm gonna do some little things here to try and prevent, because I want to be a good neighbor. I don't want to piss people off. Coming in somewhere here and try to build a little bit of a sound wall. I think they did the same thing over at the back porch. So we're trying to make it all work. Got a lot of parking. This isn't a final, but I'm 45 full parking spots, I guess you could say. And then there's a little bit of golf cart parking that'll increase that. I think it's actually going to be an added benefit to the area. Adding, that many parking spots in that area will reduce a lot of the congestion. I think, it's an old building. A lot of people know it, especially if you're a surfer in town. Do my best to smash it together and, I think, your local passion to.
On that map, where's Church Street? On the right hand side.
Church Street's right here.
Well,
Right
hell,
there, not so spot, it's been. It's been
and that,
pretty nasty for me.
that's not 15
It
feet.
looks like a big.
This, her other design had a little better showing of the 15 feet. So this,
That is 16 feet from the road, but not the property line.
so
So another 7
got another 7 back.
or 8 back from there.
Yeah.
So
So,
Okay, that's back to yours.
so.
Back to yours. Yours is. Go ahead. Put his drawing up.
That's not the scale. That
Oh,
just shows,
that hurts.
that's showing,
Just orientation.
yes.
Yeah.
So. This was done pre. Everything, so,
Okay.
Let's see.
yeah, this is actually all forward just a little bit here. Just a little bit,
And this is Church Street.
this church.
And this is not the scale, but you say,
That would originally have been 15 feet, but as this moved forward some, because you have a setback up here, as you move this forward some. this comes over. Whatever, what's 7, we're thinking about 7.5 feet. So we're asking for 8, just to, we don't want to be over. But on top of that, to the side of the street, even with the building being there, it's still 16 feet off the street.
Let's say, yeah, your beer delivery. You're not gonna wanna deliver on church, or you can go to Shorty.
Probably no. It'll all be dependent on where the ramp is. I've got to. You know, for me, the challenge is to envision, I normally walk into a place and go, okay, this is what it wants to be, this is where I'm gonna put this, and this is where I'm gonna put that. You know. I don't even know how this is gonna look once I get it together. I may have something in my mind and say, hey, I can put the ramp here or there, and then I get over there and I go, that's not gonna work. You know, I've been trying to think where I could put a ramp in. It might be on this back side over here. It might be over here.
You're talking about.
Wheelchair ramp, and then a
Oh,
lot
wheelchair.
of times wheelchair ramps is where they will load in
Okay.
all your deliveries and stuff.
Edwin, but given, I'm just, why aren't we talking about pulling onto the property with all that parking right off of Alice?
Yeah, no, and a lot of the deliveries have come in the morning. too,
Yeah,
so.
I mean, that would be our preference.
That was the point I tried to make.
Yeah,
that
if
you
we
got all
started
that
seeing
front-
it being a problem, we'd ask you to do that anyway, just like we do Island
Yeah.
Cafe all the time.
You know, the beer distributors wanted to stop on the highway at Cody's. You get the new guy, and he wants to stop on the highway.
Oh, in the turn lane?
Usually,
No, they'll pull up right dead in front of
Oh,
Cody's. and
oh,
they're gonna
oh.
load out. I'm like, hey, guys, you can't park there. You know, about every 6 months or a year or 2 years, you get a new guy and he doesn't know it. So then they pull him back into Cody's and they move their stuff.
Seems like changing the front door is
Okay.
gonna solve that problem.
You know, I don't foresee that as a problem. I've always been, you know, a good neighbor. I always try to work with anybody. I'm not trying to cause anybody any discomfort whatsoever.
All right, it's. Everybody, including myself, got a decent idea what we're talking about.
and again, Edwin, just to be clear, the ask is for 8 feet out of the 15. But if at all, when it's said and done, can be done, that's the maximum that we've asked for. So,
Yeah.
but you will strive if it's granted at all, to minimize that
We'll
7.5
minimize As much as.
every
we can.
quarter inch. Okay, I just want to make sure
You
that
know,
that is the intent.
you've got some eaves and stuff and how that's gonna kind of fit together. We'll know more about that as we go, kind of push the buildings together and, you know, they are gonna attach to each other. They will sandwich right up to each other. We're not gonna,
I think they'll have to. You don't have a fire code issue if not.
that's what we're looking for. So, you know, if this were new construction, obviously I would, you know, alter my plans, change the plans. If this wasn't about saving a building, obviously we wouldn't be sitting here talking about it. I think, you know, Port Aransas overwhelmingly is all for saving anything that's been here for a while. And, you know, I think it'd be a cool thing to have these 3 buildings on Beach Street, you know. So,
Yeah. Okay, Doug,
Do we have an internal discussion or did I have to follow a motion? Did I like to make a couple of comments?
well, that's a
This-
part of the
okay, all right.
discussion. Go ahead, go ahead.
But don't leave. I'm not addressing you, but you don't have to leave because you may want to respond to this later. I'm not a local. I've only been here 20 years. I've probably been here less than anyone here. But I've seen an enormous amount of changes in Port Aransas. I remember moving here when people said, well, we don't want to be South Padre. That's back when they said that. I don't hear that anymore because we're already there. We live in a place where there is a subdivision that deliberately represents themselves as not being a part of Port Aransas, and in fact works against the interests of Port Aransas. That's how large and different we've become. I happen to work across the street from this location and I have no connection to Old Town at all. None of that argument makes any sense to me because I live across the tracks, back by the dump and the sewage treatment plant and all that off of Ross and Leeward Sands. But I work at that intersection and recognize that that is a keystone intersection in this town. It doesn't have the traffic lights like G and cut off in Allister and 361. And it's not like Cotter and the Ferry Landing, but it is a central intersection in what is called Old Town And I would like to see that to the extent it can be preserved with period buildings. And what is going to become obviously an entertainment center, the entertainment center probably. Rather than the options that a smart businessman could do, which would be a maximum occupancy metal building like where I work. We have a good facility, but I hear people walk into Salty Dog saying, I miss the old Salty Dog. It would be a shame for people to walk into a big, huge metal building with a bunch of hats hung up inside and say, I miss the old Shorties. And I have never been in Shorties in my life. But it would be a shame to see us lose, period. What?
That's fair, fair.
Oh, field trip. No, I'm working a bar, so I drink at home. Okay. But it would be a shame to see other options exercised if the attempt to save. And I'm not an old town guy. None of that means any different to me. It's more the area that is still a part of. I remember buying gas at where Billmore's used to be when I came here as a tourist. You can't do that anymore because Billmore's isn't even there. The town is slowly, as many people remember, the old fishing village. What is it? A fishing village with a drinking problem, something like that. I can see, yeah, drinking.
Drinking
I
village
can,
fishing
I
club.
can see that town slowly disappearing. And this intersection is a really good place to save a part of that old town. Rather than what he could build if he wanted to. Our occupancy is 318. You guys have seen what Salty Dog looked like. Now that's fine. You got the VFW with its own look. You got Salty Dog, you got Treasure Island. But we don't need another Dollar General in that location. Anyway, come through.
Okay. Well, I'm a little old to, I remember the sale club.
The what?
Sale club.
Okay,
The hell
That's probably what got you in the jail over there. And,
and the jail.
that's probably what got you there.
All
I
right,
remember.
okay.
Okay, I would like to say something. This piece of property has, a big part of my heart, as a matter of fact. I grew up, working and slept in that restaurant that was there, but at one time it's called the Old Moss Hall. So I've been here 45 years, and, the back area that he's talking about used to just be pretty nasty. I was trash and smelled like fish. And I literally, there was a bedroom that was in that basic location. And I have stayed the night there before because my best friend lived there. And that was her restaurant and her parents' restaurant and across the street. So I think that the way that he's doing it looks really, it looks like he cares about what he's doing and saving these buildings that do mean something to people who have been here for a really long time. So, I mean, I see it as cleaning it up a little bit more than the way it was before. Before it was destroyed. But there was, I mean, the basic restaurant that was there is the basic shape of it, but it used to be a 2-story building, and it burned down, and then they just saved that bottom part, and but the always in the back was pretty nice. So not being in the back, I think is kind of cool. That's my 2 cents.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I think we ought to make him put in a chicken coop there in one of those corners.
Oh, yeah.
The restaurant, not the
I've had an idea.
activity.
Yeah.
You know, you
Sounds
want
like you
to take-
might have spent a night in the jail too.
Oh, yeah.
I remember the chicken coop, Marie. Ah. Okay, any further discussion? Can I have a motion? Roy,
I move that we approve the variance request.
I second.
we have a motion, Noe, second. Over here, which one?
Tina, how about
Okay,
Tina? We'll let Tina do it.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, one of them. Anyway, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes. You have reversed.
That include the chicken coop part?
Mhm. That was part of the motion.
It was a great one. They had great chicken.
I never had chicken.
Really?
I only had chalupas and tacos. Yeah.
Hearing,
Getting chicken tenders, they're doing it for Cody's, but I always thought.
Okay. Now,
What do you do with the?
now, 2:25.
Yeah.
They adjourn this meeting.
I never, yeah, in all the years.
It's pretty much falling apart, but it would be kind of cool to
No, it's pretty cool.
It was chicken coop and then
Is it?
Pathways had the.
save the
chicken shack.
bricks.
We've got a lot
I'd rather
of
they
parking
had that part
going
on the
in
outside.
there.
They get some chicken.
Have you measured?
And then
I
where
mean, that's
the
got a lot to do with you, what you do.
mechanic shop was, they had shrimp stuff.
But I come down, here, I had a buddy that lived on Avenue C. We come down here for summers, during the summers, like 4 summers in a row.
They'll throw it
Well,
away and say,
yeah. We mow yards, catch bait, sell bait.
Well, thank you for saying,
And we take all our.
thank you for what you
big
do.
Proceeds and we.
Pretty hard to
Water
like
river
get everybody
fries in a
where they're
milkshake.
supposed to, but you know,